Well, hello, spiritual seekers. Welcome to Mentorship Monday with Michelle and Maren. Maren, we have something so exciting and somebody so exciting to share today. But before we introduce our guest, how was your week? How was everything? Did you do a little more red light therapy?
I've been doing it every day.
That's good.
Can you make-
I've got more information to give you on that too. Remind
Okay.
me to say that to you. But I
I,
really want to take our time today to talk to our guest.
Me too.
And we have Regan Caruthers that's here with us today, who has the most amazing story. And it's very inspirational. We're so thankful for you to be here. Maren's going to share a little bit about Regan so that you guys can all get to meet her. And yeah, she's going to share some great stuff, and we've got some questions. So let's go.
Okay. Regan Caruthers is a writer, spiritual teacher, and founder of the Aset Yoga Center. Did I say that right?
You did. Yeah.
Okay. It explores the themes of inner transformation, healing, and how to embody the energy of divine love. She is here because she recently published a memoir called Tragic Magic, which is a testament to the power of unconditional love, forgiveness, and the discipline required to live life from an unconditionally loving heart. Welcome, Reagan.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really delighted to be here. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Thank you for getting up early and joining us. It's a Sunday morning. It's always an early morning for us, and you're so beautiful. Your light is just exuding from you. So it's so exciting to have you. And I would absolutely love, and I'm going to ask you one question before you tell your story. Could you describe in your words, Regan, what magic is? What do you feel magic is?
When you know that you are divine and eternal.
Hmm,
Very well said. Yeah, that's true.
love that.
And that is something that you have carried in your heart to learn about for yourself, that you've shared with so many other people and continue to share. Could you take us back to little Regan? What was little Regan like? What experiences did you have when you were younger that really got you onto where you are today?
Sure. So little Reagan was resilient. Little Reagan was very poised. Little Reagan, I had a teacher who said that I acted as if I was right out of central casting, which was a phrase for, you know, yeah. So I don't know. I think part of that was a response to the complexity and the trauma that I was born into. I had a very magical mother who also couldn't regulate her access. And so, in that place of dysregulation that she would find herself in, she would often make um, tragic choices while also embodying the most profound love I've ever
Hmm.
known. She made a decision at the age of 3 to enroll me in a school where we meditated every day.
Wow.
Tai Chi for gym, photographed our energy field with Kirlian film, sang songs about uh, the power of prayer and divine love
Wow.
and conscious thought, while also learning Latin, algebra, and reading Shakespeare. So
Jeez.
That
that
sounds like the most amazing school, by the way.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I want
it
to
was,
be
Can
enrolled in
I
that
sign
school.
up?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah, it was. It was founded by 3 women, all of whom had met through the Unity Church, which was founded by, well, it wasn't founded as a church. It was founded as a prayer ministry by a man named Charles Fillmore, who had cured himself of physical disease, tuberculosis, and his wife
Hmm.
Myrtle was disabled. And through prayer, um, they transformed. And so they wanted to get that message out. So, anyway, these 3 women, all of whom had advanced degrees in the early 60s,
Wow.
yeah, came together and founded this place. And so the combination of the complexity at home, the tragic decisions my mother made, the openness that I just either inherently had or was sort of taught to have at the school. I'm not sure, because how do I know? Yeah, and little Regan was highly psychic. She could hear other people's thoughts, which you don't want to have access to that.
No.
And I saw, things that others didn't. My mother never questioned any of it, because I think she was, dealing with so much multidimensionally.
Right.
She's like, whatever.
Yeah.
But it was more than I could really bear or understand. And so I commanded at the age of 9 that it all stop. And it did until 27. So I can get more into that whole awakening process.
Tell us.
Yeah. So when you commanded it to stop, was it because of the overwhelm? Did you have an experience? What was it that brought you to that point?
There was an entity that used to follow me around. He was a man, and sometimes he would look like a demon, kind of like demonic, with lots of like fire around him. And the last time I saw him as a child, he was on top of my washing machine, and I was doing gymnastics down in the basement. And the terror that I felt in my heart, I don't have words for. Oh, there's that kissing again.
I don't know if you guys can all hear it, but there's also a voice coming through with that sound. Yeah, I can hear a voice, because I can hear a male voice. And so just as you started speaking, you can hear a male voice coming through, and I can't hear what he's saying, but I can hear his voice forming words.
Anyway,
wow.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
So at 9, he was on the top of the washing machine. I had such terror, and I ran up the basement steps and I screamed, "This all needs to stop," or something like that. And it did.
And it did.
I no longer saw things. I no longer could hear other people's internal thoughts. And it wasn't until the age of 27 that this man returned. I was at a national sales meeting for a global publisher. And in the middle of the night, I'm in a deep sleep. I wake up, my eyes are still closed, and the terror that I feel in my heart, just like at 9, and I open my eyes, and he's standing at the end of my bed. And I sit up in bed, I look at him, and I say, "It's you, it's only you, I'm not afraid of you." And I went back to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, all I could feel was the presence of God, unconditional love, and oneness, which is a very familiar feeling from when I was a little girl. So that changed everything.
Yes. Maren, are you hearing that as loud as I'm hearing it?
Yes.
Regan, do you hear that as well?
It sounds like when a coffee pot boils, like it's like that.
Like it's about to blow, which is very synchronistic to exactly what you're saying, Regan.
What should we do?
I don't know.
I don't know if the background noise is going to take this out. Like the background.
It very well could. It very well could. So if everyone listening is hearing this noise,
like peak and then
we have never experienced anything like this ever.
It kind of sounds like cricket.
Yeah.
It does. It does.
Did you know that if you speed up or speed down, I can't remember, slow down or speed up crickets chirping, it sounds like an angelic choir? I feel like there.
Well, Reagan, I'll also tell you, and I'm sure the viewers will be able to see this, when you started to speak, your video started to go out. There we go. Your video started to pan out, which is what we do experience when different beings and when the angels step in, the video starts to move because of the volume of energy. And
Yeah.
of course, the frequency, and we understand how everything works is all frequency and vibration. So, I mean, that's
There.
a testament, and there we go, a testament to in itself, just of type of things that we experience with electricity, with the internet.
I
That
have
is what we're
goosebumps
feeling.
all
Yeah,
over.
yeah, yeah,
Oh my
that's
gosh.
a beautiful. I hope our listeners. I'm sorry if it's so loud for you, but I hope that you do experience that. And if any of you have technical background that you can slow it down or you can do anything with it to listen, I could hear the voice in there, and I will tell you, it's a voice that was calm and a male, soft-spoken voice that I could hear, and it was not in my head; it was coming through the audio, is how I was hearing it. So, um, okay, so we'll
We'll continue
that was
on.
pretty awesome. We'll continue on. So here you were, you had this experience in your hotel room, this same entity that you had when you were 9 years old and said, "Stop, no more, I can't have it." And so you had this experience of just saying, "I'm not afraid of you." And you rolled over, went back to sleep, and the next day you had this profound connection of oneness. And how, so, and just to explain, at that time in your life, at 27 years old, right? 27, you said? So at 27 years old, and I mean, for our numerology friends here, 27 is the number nine, which is the year of that cycle of endings and moving on to the new chapter. So at 27 years old, what were you doing in your life? So where, like, you were there for business, there for work, you feel oneness, you're stepping in with, a completely different mindset and community that you're right in the thick of. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, what was interesting is my best friend from childhood, who had provided me kind of a safe haven. She came to the meeting because she wanted to interview in San Francisco for a new job. And I said, "Oh, just stay with me." So at this time, I have no spiritual practice. I am not consciously aware or even ever reflecting on the wisdom teachings of my youth.
Mm-hmm.
I am committed to corporate ascension because I unconsciously think that's going to lead to safety.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, frankly, a script that runs, in a lot of people because that's part of, the program. So anyway, she comes to my suite and she brings me a gift, and that's the book Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And I remember opening it up as I'm like smoking a cigarette, opening it up, and it says, consciousness, this and that. And I just looked at her and I said, "I love you, and I don't have time for this." And off I went to lead my next session, right? To these shadowy executives doing
Yeah.
not so great stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the context, right? And so I awaken. My best friend is there, and her younger sister is one of the sales reps because I had gotten helped her get a job at this company. So I'm like, with my people. And I remember going into the younger sister's hotel room that morning, and on the television, oh, here's that sound again.
Yeah.
No, it's coming back.
On the television is this interview of this mother whose son was brutally murdered by a gang member. And the whole topic of this show was the
Mm-hmm.
power of forgiveness because she had forgiven this young man, had adopted him. And anyway, so that was like on the TV at like 8 in the morning.
Wow.
I remember walking the streets of San Francisco after the meeting ended for the day. And there's like a homeless person. I don't know. He was not well, and he was talking about the end times and, all this. And I remember just radiating love, having no fear. Because, San Francisco at night is
Yeah.
pretty shadowy, right? And
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
fear because I was like, there's nothing to be afraid of. I just
Yeah.
knew it so deep in my heart. And
Yeah.
all I wanted to do was call my mom that morning, and I couldn't reach her, which never happened. And the only person I
Mm-hmm.
could reach by phone, I tried to call my husband, my father, was my stepdad, who was a source of violence and uh,
Mm-hmm.
emotional abuse most of my young life. And I felt nothing but love for him. And I told him I forgave him. And I told him, the only reason we exist on this planet is to learn to love as Jesus taught, right? To embody divine love, to learn how to do that. That's the only reason we're here. Nothing else matters. And he drops the phone as I tell him this, and I hear it like clanking around. And he comes back a few seconds later and he said, "Well, Blonde Beauty, I have no explanation, but a golden eagle just landed on the crabapple tree in the backyard." And then he drops the phone again and he said, "Again, Regan, I don't know what's happening. And there's a red fox now at the base of the tree looking up at the eagle." And he's got Comanche bloodlines. He's Sicilian, Comanche, and a Scorpio. That's a lot.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And so from that moment, and that was more than 30 years ago, my stepdad, who is still alive, which there defies explanation, is kind and gentle.
Wow.
So
Wow.
the energy that I was connected to, right, that I transmitted to him, and the love that I shared, changed.
How metaphoric
Um,
as well with the eagle and the crabapple, and really representing that transformation. It feels to me like it was sending that message of healing that crabapple, of taking away that pain and that negativity that had been exuding from him and had affected you and others. That is amazing. And the spiritual awakening, that process happens so differently for everybody, but that oneness. And what I find so fascinating is how, and I do feel that it is what was instilled in you throughout your formative years, and your purpose, your divinity, and the importance of that particular time in your life of shifting you. So it's like everything was in that ripe spot, and with that entity returning and
I
that
feel like,
oneness coming in so directly and
yeah.
in that moment is so powerful and
And
very
and
transformative.
the theme for me, right, this is my process, um, had to do with confronting darkness
Yes.
with love and sovereignty. And so
Yes.
what happened post awakening was really terrifying, way more terrifying than the
Mm-hmm.
experiences I had young.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I would wake up in the middle of the night surrounded by what seemed like demonic energy. I was taken
Mm-hmm.
out of my body against my
Mm-hmm.
will and
Mm-hmm.
like traveling to really scary places.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until, and there's no handbook for this, or if
No.
there is, I didn't know what it was. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
there it is.
So a little confirmation.
But what I learned over time, and it took 2 years of these visitations, was to finally get to a place where I could radiate love to them.
Yeah. Yes.
And once I was able to, they stopped visiting.
Wow.
And I
Yes.
also
Yeah.
learned how to exit my body at will and
Yeah.
return. And in so doing, that's when you learn that you're eternal and that
Yes.
death is nothing to fear. Because
Yes.
this is just a temporary house
Yes.
that dies, but who you are doesn't. So I learned all
Yes.
that directly um,
Yeah.
in 1994 through 96.
Wow.
And then a few years after that, in 99, I was staff at the HeartMath Institute, moved to California, and began leading the program for HeartMath.
So now that is very fascinating to me as well. And the transformation
I know.
and the process that you experienced. Yeah, so it is really loud.
I know. I think it's going back.
um yeah, it'll go back down. Um the transformation and the really confronting those entities, confronting that fear, that negativity that was within and around you from, I feel, from your experiences and from some others, because I feel you do process a lot for those around you. Transform a lot of that energy. And so you were confronting energy for others. And I feel for your mother as well. A lot of that energy that maybe she couldn't, or that she wasn't able to, and you did that for her as well.
Yeah, I mean, none of it was conscious, really.
No,
I didn't
no.
I didn't know that was what I was doing.
Right, right,
Neither as a little girl or even post awakening. But as
right.
you say that, right, and I hear that,
Hmm.
and I know the truth of it.
Yes, yeah. And it's a very powerful and beautiful thing, but it shows us that we don't we don't have this play-by-play map throughout our experience. And it is a continuous trust of following along what we feel, where we're guided. And I think you can attest to this, that as you do that, yes, the information might be more clear. You understand your direction and the ability to trust yourself. But when we have an awakening process, no matter what that looks like for anyone, that is, it's really our internal process, and nobody is telling us how to do that. But it takes a lot of courage to walk in this world and work with these multi levels of awareness that really is there to help us, and to help us to deeply understand ourselves. But there is no roadmap, there is no handbook, and we each have an individual path. So it's beautiful to listen to you speak of your experience, but also the vulnerability, and the vulnerability of sharing that, you know, yes, that oneness, and I felt all that love, but I also had this darkness. I had this fear. I had to walk through this, and nobody could do it for you. You could only do it yourself. And to be on the other side of that, which then led you to HeartMath. So, how did you find that? And for those that don't know what that is, could you tell us a little bit about that and help explain the beauty of that process?
Sure. So, post awakening, I began working with a woman. She was a author of an amazing book that I wish everybody would read, called The Joyful Child. Her name is Dr. Peggy Jenkins.
Mm,
Um, she also wrote another book, Nurturing Spirituality in Children. Anyway, she had won an award at the United Nations for her contribution to
wow.
children's health. Anyway, I found her by going to an organic grocery store in 1994 in St. Louis.
Wow.
This itty bitty little place with produce is like, so tired because he'd come from such a long way. Anyway, there was a magazine that she published called The Joyful Child, and there was a little magazine section in this market. And so I picked it up and I opened it and it's like, oh my gosh, it was like so reflective of my early education. I was like, so anyway, soon after that, I found myself working with her and leading seminars for young parents and for teachers. And she was friends with another author named Dr. Joseph Chilton Pierce. Again, I'm older, you may not know this man, but boy, you should read his work. Cracking the Cosmic Egg, Magical Child. Anyway, he suggests to Peggy, because HeartMath had opened in 91, right? And this is 94, maybe 95, and suggested to Peggy that she check out the work of the HeartMath Institute. Well, Peggy was in her 70s. She wasn't going to fly to Santa Cruz, and yeah. So I was elected to do it. So I go to a parenting seminar led by HeartMath. And I talk about this in the book, but I had a recurring dream as a little girl where I would dive off this long dock into this mystical world with these black hooded floating beings with light emanating from their heart. And I would always be protected behind something. Anyway, so here I am at HeartMath at the seminar. It's raining. I have a little black raincoat on as I'm running across the field. And I was like, oh, I just knew that those were the people that I would see night after night. I mean, I had this dream at least 3 or 4 times in a week as a kid. And the founder of HeartMath is a man named Doc Children. And I dove off this dock. Okay, so anyway, I'm at HeartMath. I know that intuitively I'm supposed to, be part of this thing. And, a couple of years after that seminar, I was staff leading programs and retreats for business audiences. So for your audience, HeartMath is many things. They're a research institute. They've published over 400 studies around the efficacy of their methods, how it reduces anxiety, improves physiological coherent heart-brain connection, improves sleep, all sorts of, just the consequences of the stress response, reduces that. So it teaches you how to access the intelligence of the heart and how to consciously through the breath, you are breathing through the heart and then you're accessing the energy of love and gratitude. And in so doing, you change the rhythm of your heart, this beautiful sine wave, when you are doing their method. So they develop these techniques that have been proven to be, incredible for improving health. And then they develop technology a little later on where you can see in real time the rhythm of your heart, how it changes when you employ their methods. It shows you how much physiological coherence you're creating. Yeah, so it was amazing to represent them as I did. And it was not a fit organizationally. Yeah, you'll have to read my book to get into some of that. But yeah, I'm not a follower. And so there's this moment, because all of our meals were, provided for us. And a lot of the staff lived on site.
Yeah.
And they, they're organized a little differently than a typical organization. Anyway, this fateful day, lunch, their burgers are being served, and I don't see any ketchup on the counter. And so as I approach, I'm in this line, and as I approach the meal, I asked Phil, who was the executive chef, I said, hey, Phil, where's the ketchup? And he said, oh, Doc and Sarah don't want us to have the additional sugar today. And I said, you know what? And I kind of screamed it. I said, I'm in charge of my own condiments. And I went back into the pantry, grabbed a bottle of ketchup, poured it very dramatically all over my burger, way more ketchup than I actually wanted, but I was trying to prove a point. And I knew that that was, kind of it. I mean, I
Yeah.
stayed on for a little while longer,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm too free spirited to be part
Yeah.
of something that wants to tell me what condiments I can put on my burger.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like a
I love
metaphor.
that.
It's a metaphor. But yeah.
I love that. I love that. So true. So true.
Yeah, but what
So,
they've developed is life
yeah.
changing, regardless of the organization, right? And I just didn't feel seen. I looked like I was about 12, which I
Hmm.
understand at that time. But I had been a pretty high powered business person. I'd had this
Yeah.
dramatic awakening, this very unusual education, and there was no real inquiry. Like I just, yeah, anyway, it just wasn't.
Mhm.
Well, and that was something I feel that, you came in and you grabbed that structure of the knowledge, and that's really what it was to do,
Yeah.
was to take it because you're not a follower.
Mhm.
And you're clearly from day one, you have led your own path. And that's the beauty. And that's something that Maren and I are very passionate about teaching, is that there is lots of information out there. There is amazing teachers, but you don't need to follow anybody and do exactly what they say. Take your nuggets
Yeah.
that resonate with you. Take that information because it's valuable, and that's why you've been drawn to it, or that's why you're there. So take what resonates with
Mhm.
you, take it in, make it your own, make it work for you, with the intention that you're making things better for yourself, your life better, increasing your value of your heart.
Yeah.
So I love that you shared that. I love that you said that, because that is, I think, the most important piece of information that any of us can hear, especially with so much spiritual and scientific, because really understanding the science of the heart, of our energy, and putting that together with a lot of these experiences that are mystical, is they really need to be married together to help bring a little more logic for each of us to, for myself, and I know for many of our listeners, it helps ground that information and helps us really make a difference with it, because not everybody can understand some of the spiritual experiences if they've not had them, but they can understand from the perspective of energy and understand the vibration, the electromagnetic field in the heart. So that's amazing and very purposeful for what you have to share with so many people.
Oh, absolutely. And Josh was very wise to package this ancient wisdom
Yes,
in a Western biomedical model.
yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah, I mean, it was brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
yeah.
That teapot is boiling, I tell you. It is boiling at the top. My goodness.
Oh my God.
Is this not an explosion of energy or what? Like,
Yeah.
this is something else.
I've never heard anything like this before.
No, no. This
This,
is wild.
I'm just sitting here, I'm like, only on our show would this happen. This is just,
Yeah,
You
I don't know.
we,
check in and make sure it's not my mom. It feels very mom-like to me.
yes,
It's just like,
that, that, that divine love, that's a very powerful energy.
It
And
is.
we certainly,
It saved my
we,
life, like
yes,
literally.
yes,
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 you have to
uh,
get into that too.
yes, yes. Keep going, keep going. What's next?
So I leave HeartMath.
Yeah,
I have my second son, Ian.
yeah.
He's a baby, and our household is struggling financially, and I need to go back to work. Well,
Hmm.
the only work I had known was back in academic publishing, right? So it had been 7 years, And one of my heart math clients was an executive in that industry and lets me know that there's an opportunity at McGraw-Hill and explains, it sounds interesting. And goes, and by the way, do you happen to know Jim Kelly? He's now my husband, by the way. And I said, yeah, he was my DC at Tennis Hall. He's like, well, you should call him. Okay. So I called Jim about this opportunity. I don't know. He tells me later that when he heard it was Regan Caruthers on the line, he was like, whatever you wanted, the answer was yes. So, I mean, I was putting up a good front, but I was desperate. I mean, things in my house, which again, I detail in the book, it was pretty, yeah. So I go back into corporate life, and that takes me into Silicon Valley, into the whole venture funded startup world. And I do that for another, 15 years, I guess. And I'm integrating my practice, but I'm not as disciplined as I became. I was a single mom. I divorced my first husband. So running sales and business development for venture-funded startups in Silicon Valley, it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And I was a single mom. Anyway, Jim Kelly comes into my life in a different way. We begin dating. I fall madly in love, which is shocking because I had known him a long time and I didn't even really like him very much. Anyway, life has a way of, surprising you even when you spike it. And so one fateful night, I am just at the end of my rope and I am weeping in his arms. Like, I don't know, I can't manage all of this. It's too much. And he says, well, honey, why don't you just let me take care of you? And so my immediate response is, no, because I had, taken care of myself literally since I was about 18 months old. Took me about 3 months, and then I finally said yes. So that changed the course of my life. It enabled me to really become disciplined again in my practice. I, began teaching yoga. Things were quite different than they had been because of this amazing man that came into my life that I actually very purposely attracted. I didn't know it was him, but anyway, again, that's all in the book. So now let's fast forward. I've had this, amazing career in Silicon Valley. I'm now back in my discipline practice. I'm looking at things that I had developed that are in like Rubbermaid trunks. Everything is coming back in. And so I decide, because I'm told by God, to write my story. It's the COVID lockdown. In California, it was dystopian, right?
Yes.
I decided to travel to Joshua Tree to work on my book. I have a certain ritual that I do every day and something I would certainly do before writing. So I'm in the high desert, meditating, bringing in the energy of divine love, sitting in it, and I receive a message, you must urgently move home. So I've been in Santa Cruz, California for 25 years. Home is St. Louis, Missouri. I am living on the beach at Monterey Bay in a beautiful home, living this amazing life with this great community. And I just know the truth of it. So I come out of meditation, I check my phone to see if I have enough bars to make a phone call. And I call a friend in St. Louis who's a realtor. And I said, Andrea, I just received that God says I have to urgently move home. And I do what I'm told. So I flew out of Palm Springs the following morning to head to St. Louis to see where God wanted me to live. Nothing's resonant in St. Louis. And so again, in the quiet, I received Franklin County. I don't even know what that means. And so I say to my friend, I said, God says Franklin County. So we broaden the search, and that's when I find where I now am. So I have a 10-acre estate, a beautiful building that I converted into my yoga center. Everybody back in California thinks I am like lost it, right? Like I'm living in rural Missouri, like, and my younger son was like, Mom, I don't know who you're connected to, but I don't know why they would say that, right? Anyway, we get all moved in. So I heeded the call. I got the call to move home in December of 21. By March of 22, we are here. Come June or late May, no, it's early June, again in meditation, I'm told I have to urgently go to a doctor. I don't go to Western doctors. I mean, I do screenings occasionally, but I don't know. How they practice just doesn't resonate with me. Oh, the angels wanted everybody to make sure to hear this. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I find a country doctor on Google and I make an appointment the following day after being told to urgently go to a doctor. So urgent was in both messages. It wasn't fearful. It wasn't a fearful transmission. It was very matter of fact, very clear. And I just know the voice of the divine. So I find this country doctor, and what do doctors do? They listen to your heart, right? Like it's like the first thing they do. And he says, "Oh, Regan, you have a very loud murmur. Something is wrong. We need to get you scheduled for an echocardiogram as quickly as possible." I'm like, "What is that?" And he tells me it's an ultrasound of the heart. So the following day, I'm now getting this echo. And I think it was the following morning after the echo, it wasn't that day, I learned I'm dying.
Wow.
So I was born with a congenital birth defect in my heart.
Oh,
Did you know that? Or did you find that out at that time?
I had gotten the diagnosis, but years before, but I never thought anything of it. I don't know. It just, it didn't anyway. So yeah, my aortic valve was born with this defect and had become highly calcified because it had worked so hard. I was an athlete. You know, I was a competitive gymnast when I was young. I ran track, cheerleading, high impact aerobics, my whole life.
Yeah.
So anyway, what do you do when you learn that? Well, you try to find the best surgeon possible. He had referred me to somebody, locally. No, I'm going to Barnes Hospital in St. Louis, which is where I was born. Well, the reason why God called me home is Barnes Hospital just happens to be one of the best places in the world for the surgery that I needed.
Wow.
So I had open heart surgery in July of 22 to replace my aortic valve.
Wow.
Pretty significant surgery. And so it was at 5 in the morning on July 29th. The following morning after the surgery, I'm cleared from the ICU, which never happens. And by Tuesday, I'm home.
Wow.
And on my day of discharge, and my mother was powering me. Anyway, on my day of discharge, Dr. Damiano, the head of cardiothoracic surgery at Barnes Hospital, comes to see me. He'd already told my husband this. And he said, Regan, there's no clinical explanation of how you were alive prior to this. It was the worst aortic valve he'd ever seen in 40 years of being a heart surgeon. Typically, you have about $0.50 of room in your aortic valve for blood to flow through. In my case, it was less than the diameter of a Q-tip stick.
Wow.
So when he told me that, I said, well, doctor, do you believe in Jesus Christ? He said, I do. I said, well, that's the only explanation I have. Okay, fast forward. I get very sick from heart inflammation post-surgery. I'm basically in bed for almost 6 months. But I know I'm not going to die because if I was supposed to be dead before, why was I going to die then? So I intuitively knew I was going to be fine. And there was a lot of past life stuff I was working out because I'd often been assassinated by my heart being taken out of my body. Anyway, so on the winter solstice, I intuitively know I'm all better. sure enough, the blood work bears that out on that Friday. And then a few months later, in April, a Christian mystic friend of mine dies suddenly from the COVID vaccine. And I go to Florida for his funeral. And it's on Palm Sunday. And I'm not a traditional Christian. I had to look up on Google, like, what is Palm Sunday, right? But I love
Yeah.
Jesus. Jesus is definitely my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so now I'm in Florida. I want to go to the beach after the service. I'm so sad because I can't even believe this has happened to him. And I'm naked in the bathroom and I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, my scar looks different. And I get closer to the mirror and sure enough, I don't know when it happened, if it had happened that day, but the scar now on my chest is in the shape of a crucifix. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Oh, Regan.
Oh my gosh.
So when I shared that with my surgeon, I had come in for my follow-up appointment with my cardiologist, and I just intuitively knew my surgeon was in the office. And so I said, hey, is Dr. Damiano here? Sure enough, he was. And he was right across the hall from where my patient room was. So I interrupt him. He's in this room with all these workstations and all these other doctors. I think they're charting their open heart surgeries. And I said, hey, Dr. Damiano, it's Regan. And he was like, oh my God, you look amazing. I said, thank you. And then I bare my chest. I said, I have something to show you. And I show it to him. And he weeps.
Oh.
And then all the other doctors, because the head of cardiothoracic surgery is crying, right? They all stand up. And I'm baring my chest. Now they're all filled up. And he looks at them and goes, have you ever seen anything like this? And like, he said, well, Regan, that's another miracle because it's a vertical cut. There's no horizontal cut.
Yeah. I have
Wow.
goosebumps all over.
Yeah, so do I.
Wow.
The testimony of you and you are here to be exactly who you are and no one else, because it is your story, your testimony that is the inspiration of God.
Absolutely. And the importance of discipline. That, I mean, not only can love of God transmute anything,
Yes.
and create the miraculous. I'm a living testimony for that because I should have been dead, right? But it wasn't until I became disciplined in my practice that everything began to be different.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is such an important piece because I don't know if you, because you have like you do coaching and sessions with people all the time, all over the world. And you know, the importance of expressing that commitment to dedication, to practice, to our faith, to the trust, and having that in our daily life every day is that huge, big key. That is the key to that love and to bringing that into our life. And can you talk a little bit about that, like a little bit about the importance of it and what that looks like for you?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Like, what was the step where you became disciplined, and like, how does that look for you? Because I know you had to make some dramatic life changes. Would you consider through and through your story, like one thing is true, you always follow your intuition and follow your heart, and you do what your intuition says. So is that considered the discipline, or are you getting up at 8 a.m. every day, spending 2 hours meditating? Like, what is discipline to you?
Discipline is consistent practice. Doesn't matter what time, right? But every day, I pray. So I walk down my driveway, come into my center. In fact, I just did an Instagram reel sharing this particular ritual. I like Palo Santo, and I can share my prayer if you want me to. Yeah,
Please.
so I begin by saying, Sweet loving spirit, angels of love and of light, my guides and guardians, ancestors of the highest vibration and intention, my beloved God, Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, and Aset. I ask for you to be with me, to help fill my heart with the consciousness of the Christ, to be an agent of the highest good, to live my highest timeline, and for the resources, the insights, and the people that I need to support that to come forth. I'm so grateful for your help, for your guidance, for your unconditional love. And my intention is to be that in this world every day. And so it is. Yeah, so it begins with that. And then however long I feel to sit, I don't have a specific time commitment. Sometimes I don't spend much time in meditation, but I do micro meditations throughout the day and micro prayers. Like I'm always praying, like consistently throughout the day. And then the meditative practice is the heart-centered breathing, accessing, and every day is different, but accessing the highest vibration of divine love that I can and bringing that in. And so for your listeners, it can be something as simple as putting their hands on their heart, connecting with the breath. So it's as if you're breathing through the center of your chest. And then recall a moment when you've experienced profound love, whatever that is, right? Begin there. And then it becomes kind of a scaffolding, right? In that you begin wherever you can, whatever feels accessible and whatever feels sincere. And through your commitment, that access, that vibration will just naturally rise.
Yes. The sincerity, that piece of sincerity, because I can really feel that it is not, for everybody, and I feel you would agree with this. It's when we're bringing something that we love or using something to embody that into our heart, it really is the sincerity.
Absolutely.
Of, it's finding that peace no matter what it is. It's what feels sincere to us, that love, because these are all such important pieces of building, and it all does build. It's like these tiny, I was saying to Maren earlier, it's these little inchworm pieces, and the consistency of embodying them continuously, because you will look back and just be like, wow.
And every day is different depending on the vibration that you wake up with. Right? Like, some nights I'm in menopause, so sleep, excuse my French, sucks. Right? And so sometimes when I wake up, there's more calibration, recalibration that I need to do. So anyway, you just do the best you can. And and for whatever reason, since I was a kid, I just knew what this inner voice was to trust. I tell of this moment as a preteen where I'm on my way to the orthodontist with my mother. And again, even though the veil was down, I still had an inner life of some semblance, right?
Right.
I'm looking out the window and it's quiet in the car, which if you knew my mother, that's a miracle in and of itself. And the voice says, you need to repeat the 9th grade. Because of my early schooling, I was ahead of myself by almost 2 years. And I was so little and I was bullied and it was just awful. And so I was like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. I need to catch up, right? So I looked to my mother who's driving and I said, Mom, I need to repeat the 9th grade. And I explained, a little bit why. Not that I was told to, right? And she's like, well, honey, I don't know a thing about that, but you've got my full support. And then a
That's
month
awesome.
later, I'm giving a presentation alone. I think my mother was with me. I'm not even sure. To the Board of Education of my school district, because there was no mechanism to allow a straight A student to be held back. So I had to make the case. And then they said yes. And that was a turning point in my adolescent life. I had took all electives, worked for the administration, had all lunch hours. My mother would come and bring me Haagen-Dazs ice cream for my third lunch hour or whatever. Yeah. And so I think it was that moment, now that I, really think about it, where the quality of that voice, right? How it sounds, the healing resonance of it, that got big.
Mm-hmm.
And so later in my life, when I was told to work at HeartMath and leave St. Louis and this amazing life I was leading, to go work for $12 an hour for the HeartMath Institute, you basically a renunciate, right? Everybody thinks I am cuckoo as Cocoa Puffs, right? Anyway, I'm glad that I listened, because everything that happened was exactly what needed to happen.
Yeah. It's
Do
beautiful.
you think working at the HeartMath Institute helped your actual heart and survive that physical ailment of it? Because it put your heart and your body in cadence, that maybe it put less stress on your body as it was reduced in size, as your aorta was reduced in size. Do you think that helped?
Well, it didn't hurt. It had nothing to do with working at HeartMath, but the practice,
or the lessons you learned from it.
The practice,
the breath practice, the heart-centered breathing, coupled with the activation of the highest love you can muster, and bringing that energy in. Yeah, absolutely. That's what kept me alive. I mean, I guess I have no way of knowing, but I feel that. I think,
Wow.
There's always so many
layers.
So many layers of truth to each experience, and we don't always know. We don't always know for sure.
Well, Jesus,
some things we may not know, but definitely.
Because those dreams, I mean, there was a reason why you were there. So
Well, and the CEO at the time, Bruce Cryer, he's still one of my closest friends.
Okay.
He no longer works there. But it all was purposeful, for sure. Yeah.
Wow.
So
so tell us, Regan, where are you today? What's going on with Regan today, and what do you do? I know you've got a book recently.
Yeah,
right?
I want to see the cover. It's really pretty.
Yes, of course.
Oh, yes.
We come a little bit
move it over. There we go. Tragic Magic. That is gorgeous. Gorgeous. A memoir. And we will have all the links below so that everybody, you can find Regan everywhere in your book. Yes.
By my book, I think people will find inspiration, and they will also relate to the mess. There's plenty of mess in my story.
I love
There's plenty of mess. So I don't want anybody listening to think that I've lived this no. And
that's the beauty about it. That is the real, honest, authentic, vulnerable beauty about it.
Yeah.
And that is why this is so important.
Yes. Is the teacher. So anyway, I have my yoga center here on my property. I don't know if people want to see it. I can fan the computer.
Yeah, we'd love to see it. Oh, wow. Beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Oh, that was so relaxing and peaceful.
So I teach yoga as an act of service. I don't charge my community. I do what I call inner life coaching. So I can do that remotely, or people come, physically here. Uh, I've developed processes to heal from trauma because I had so
Mm-hmm.
much of it. And I know how to do that. So I share what I know in my coaching, and I have a
Mm-hmm.
framework to help people heal. And I also teach heart math here from time to time. I teach other classes. I, have special events. I
Mm-hmm.
host yoga retreats. There's a lot of things that I do. Right now, I have a real bug to travel.
Mm.
I can really hear my mom. Yeah, I can really hear my mom. So I'm going to Greece at the end of June. My uh, teacher, my yoga teacher, Hannah Muse, is leading a retreat there. So I'm excited about that. I've never been to Greece. And my mother really wants me to see the world. I've seen bits of it. I've been to Europe. I've been to Canada, Mexico, the Caribbean. But yeah, there's a lot of places I haven't yet seen, and I'm in, the fourth quarter of my life. I do think I'm going to live until my mid 90s, so I got time, but I don't know. Before things get really weird here on this planet, I think it's a good time to try to see what I can before things change. Yeah, and I'm just here to be of service and to share what I know. I think I'll develop some online courses. I have these courses called Ready to Awaken that I teach here at the center, but I can easily like create that as a video based online course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking of doing that. Don't have any definitive plans, but that's what I'm being told I'm supposed to do. And I'm just going to continue to listen and
Yes.
do what I'm told. So um, right now, I'm just serving my community as best I can. And anybody that wants, to experience inner life coaching with me, they just go on regancaruthers.com. They can schedule a free discovery call where we just get acquainted. And if my process resonates, then we begin. So
Your
I'm
mom
sure
sure is proud of you. She
there
sure
is
is proud of you, and I can feel her energy, and boy, she is excited.
well,
I hear it starting to ramp up again.
and
Ooh,
she's just excited, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
um, yeah. She was at a vibration that, of course, was characterized as mental illness.
Yeah.
She was born in 1933, and
Yeah.
at the age of 16, she was chosen by the Red Cross to represent the United States to post-war Europe.
Mm.
She dated a king.
Mm-hmm.
She worked for Pan Am, in the golden years of Pan Am because she spoke 9 languages, and she
Wow.
was promoted to fly all the dignitary flights for President Eisenhower, which is how she met the King of Jordan. And yeah. Anyway, I
Wow.
got 5 letters their correspondence when they were courting. Anyway, yeah, she's remarkable. And, like the shamans say, um, mental illness are just healers unable to integrate the call.
Yes.
And that was what happened to her. And I, in witnessing all of that, was committed for it not to happen to me. Because if I had confided in a mental health professional about either things that happened to me as a kid, my awakening, I would have been diagnosed as schizophrenic or,
Yeah.
goodness knows what else. But I knew the truth, and
Yeah.
I just learned how not to be afraid.
Yeah. I agree. I kept a lot of things to myself for a very long time because I knew that uh it was like, okay, she's not okay. There's something going on here, and it took a while to really work through that, to be able to express that out into the world in a grounded way, but I always knew in my heart. I knew in my heart. So I appreciate you saying that. And we're so grateful that you shared everything with us today, and that these beautiful angelic crickets that carried on through our entire show that are quiet right now. But
It was,
I'm
you guys, at one point there was a lower one and then like a higher one came in and the
yeah,
lower one faded out and then the higher one stayed. I mean, that is not interference. That is too
yeah,
specific. It was unbelievable.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we'll see if you guys hear it.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I hope
Pretty
your
amazing.
listeners were able to hear through all of them. Yeah.
Well, yeah, 'cause the information is
I know.
fantastic. Your story is fantastic. And
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for being with us today. You definitely resonate with our hearts and the hearts of our listeners. Everything that you shared about your story is a lot of what Maren and I really share and believe in. And it's beautiful and synchronistic to connect with you today
I'm
and to
so
share this. So
grateful
thank you.
that we did this. I feel like I have
Yeah.
new friends.
Yes.
And
You
Same.
certainly do.
yeah,
Yes.
You
well,
certainly
you're
do.
so
Yes.
close in Indianapolis. You can come
I
visit.
know.
And
Okay.
you get on the train. I have an Amtrak station literally right in my little historic downtown. So just get
What?
on the Amtrak and I'll come and pick you up. And we
There you
can
go.
hang out.
I would love that. I would love that. That would be so
There you
fun.
go.
Okay,
Be
good.
awesome.
We'll do it.
Let's make that happen. And
Okay.
same to you,
All right.
Michelle. I know you're far away, but you
I
can.
know. Michelle will just
I'll
come down to
I'll
me
wiggle
and
my
then,
way in there somehow. I'll
yes,
wiggle my way in.
yes. Good.
In Ontario? In Ontario?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
got it.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been there. Yeah.
Yes.
In my
Yeah.
business life. Ottawa,
Yeah.
into Ottawa,
Yes.
Toronto, Montreal.
Yes. Where I'm just about 2.5 well, yeah, just a little over 2 hours east of Toronto.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
good to be
Just
with you guys. If you
good
ever
to
want to
be
talk
good to be with
again,
you.
just let
Oh,
me know.
absolutely. Absolutely. I know we will connect again. I know we will.
Good.
So
Um,
thank you, everybody. And of course, thank you, Regan, again. And thank you guys for hanging in with us. And we hope that you take all these pearls of wisdom into your own heart and carry it forward in your journey. And of course, as we always say, in the way that is most authentically you. And Maren, do you have anything else to share before we go?
no, I'm just thinking
Yeah,
about
we're
it's,
just riding on the vibe.
I am writing on the vibe and I'm thinking about the dream I had last night that had everything to do with discipline and procrastinating spirituality. So I'm going to make time for myself. I've learned that lesson and just make those conscious choices. So just always, I think, follow my intuition and my heart and the highest vibe. I love it. I learned so much.
Same. Yeah, absolutely. Well, have a great week, everybody.
All right.
You're all seeing this on Monday night, so have a great week. We will see you here at the same bat time, same bat channel.
Okay, much love.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.